Now from St. Louis is Democratic Senator Clare McCaskill of Missouri. Senator McCaskill, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thanks. Good morning, Chuck. Well,
good morning to you. I'm going to actually start with a topic that I basically was ending with Senator Portman, and it has to do with taxes. You met with President Trump recently on tax reform. What promises did he make to you that makes you at least think about supporting his tax plan?
Well, he at least acknowledged that, it's really hard for somebody like me to negotiate on this tax bill when we don't know what it is. It's hard for me to take seriously that they want Democrats to participate when they won't show us the bill. What they've laid out is not a tax cut for middle-class families. 80% of the benefit that's going to go to pass-through companies is going to go to millionaires and above. They don't even tell us what the tax credit will be for children. Right now, the framework would have a one-child policy. A family of 4 in Missouri that makes $50,000 a year would pay $887 more under the framework they've laid out. So I want to work with them. If we can make this about the middle class and make this not trickle down, but deliver to the middle class and small businesses, then I think they could get a bipartisan vote on this, and that would be so much better for the country.
Well, look, you're not going to get everything you want. You're in the minority. Your party's in the minority. So I guess, what are you willing to compromise on? Are you willing to support some things you don't necessarily agree with if it has some provisions in it, say 40% of what you like? So do you support lowering the corporate tax rate, for instance, down to 20%?
I certainly support lowering the corporate tax rate so we're globally competitive. I could live with somewhere in the low 20s, and depending on what they would do on a child tax credit or on making sure that kids can afford college, retirement income, the notion that they're going to mess with the retirement accounts in order to give a tax break to millionaires and billionaires, that just doesn't work. So, yeah, I'll compromise. But, Chuck, I've had a front row seat to what happened in Kansas. They're our neighbor in Missouri.
Right.
And they said exactly what Senator Portman said. Well, we're going to have growth. It's not going to be a problem. It's been a huge problem in Kansas. There wasn't growth. Public schools suffered. And the Republican legislature had to reverse the tax cuts they did in Kansas.
Do you have a line in the sand of where you won't support this? Do you have a deficit line in the sand? Or if it increases the deficit even temporarily, can you support this tax cut plan?
I'm not going to do a line in the sand other than this. If they don't put some guardrails on the giant pass-through loophole that 95% of private businesses are going to enjoy, and 80% of the business, 80% of the benefit will go to millionaires and billionaires, that's what I can't do. And I certainly can't do a policy that's going to hurt a family of 4 that has only a $50,000 income in my state. So they've got to show us. But it feels like they're going to ram this through in a party line vote, and that's probably the most disappointing.
Well, look, you're running for re-election in a Trump state.
Yeah.
The president has already visited your state once to talk about tax reform. Here's what he said about you.
We must lower our taxes. And your senator, Clare McCaskill, she must do this for you, and if she doesn't do it for you, you have to vote her out of office.
If President Trump in the fall of 18 can say you didn't support his tax bill and your opponent is somebody that will work with him, how problematic is that for your reelection?
Well, I think Missourians are going to take a look and see who is actually getting stuff done. And I couldn't agree more with Rob Portman. One of those senators that worked with Rob Portman was me. We did a lot of things together. I just had a Republican senator call me over the weekend, wanting me to work with him on a bill. I've got a large body of work that is bipartisan, that does accomplish things that matter for Missouri families. And I think that's what they want right now, not people on opposite sides of the room yelling at each other. I'm one of the few senators left that's not afraid to call myself a moderate. And I think that's what we need right now. All this noise is not accomplishing anything for people.
What do you think to the Missouri voter, what do you and President Trump have in common? To the Missouri voter that voted for President Trump that you're going to need if you win re-election, what would you tell them that you and President Trump have in common?
Well, we have enough in common that he signed a number of my bills into law already. He agreed that we needed to get help to mustard gas veterans who had been tested with mustard gas during World War II. He agreed that we needed to put generic drugs on a fast path to approval so that we could bring down the price of prescription drugs. So there are things, we certainly agree on infrastructure. If we could figure out a way to bring some of that money that's parked overseas back to build roads and bridges and, most importantly, high-speed rural broadband in my state. So there are specific policy things we agree on, and I am anxious to work with him on those things. We may not agree always on style, and sometimes we don't agree on substance, but my job's not to fight him. My job's to fight for Missourians. And so I get up every day, my feet hit the ground trying to figure out how I can get stuff done for them, not how I can criticize the predecessor.
You said something recently that sort of caught my eye, made me chuckle a little bit. You referenced a couple of cable news hosts, and you said 30% of Missouri is worrying about what one cable news host says, 20% is worried about another, and you said, and half the state's watching Dancing with the Stars. And your focus on the folks, you say, I try to focus on the folks watching Dancing with the Stars. Who are the Dancing with the Stars voters?
They are single moms that don't know if they can afford to send their kids to camp. They are two working parents that are making a combined income of less than $100,000 that are trying to figure out whether or not they can get to their child's soccer practice because they have to work extra hours because they're trying to put money in a retirement account. They are families living paycheck to paycheck. They are way too busy with their lives to worry about all this political noise. And frankly, they voted for me and for Mitt Romney. They voted for Donald Trump and Jason Kander. They will vote for a Democrat and a Republican if they believe they're authentic, they're telling the truth, and they're working hard.
You know, you recently bragged about not supporting Harry Reid when he was the Senate Democratic leader, and you did that in 2014 because you thought maybe there was a leadership problem in the Democratic Party. I'm curious, do you still think the Democratic Party has a leadership issue?
Well, I think it's hard when we are the minority party that we have lots of folks that are leaders and want to be leaders. And we have so many people that are trying to position themselves to run for president. I think it's hard to say who is the leader, and there's a lot of angst about that. I frankly don't worry about any of that. I mean, that's not something that concerns me right now.
You called yourself a moderate. Let me ask you this: do you think the Democratic Party is open to moderates still?
I do.
What's the proof? Doesn't the party move into the left?
I think there's still a whole lot of people that care about the debt. I think there's a whole lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of issues that unite us as Democrats. And I'm going to focus on those issues. And I'm not going anywhere on those issues. They're principled things I have voted on time and time again that unite the Democratic Party. You know, things like minimum wage, workplace protections, the safety net that Pell Grants and Medicaid and Medicare provide, and Social Security. That unites us, and I think that's going to be strong next year, especially in the face of what's going on in the Republican Party.
But let me ask it this way then. Why is the Democratic brand in such a bad standing in so many parts of Missouri?
I think there's cultural issues that Donald Trump was, I think, very smart to emphasize that have made it hard sometimes for us to relate. Sometimes those people watching Dancing with the Stars, they're not getting into the details of what we're doing on Pell Grants. They are rather saying, hey, I can't afford college, you know, give it to me straight. And they don't think they've gotten it straight. And we get kind of lost in the weeds, and the cultural issues divide cities and the rural areas. I got to figure out a way to knit all that together. And after doing almost 50 town halls, I'll tell you this, they want us to quit fighting with each other. That's what they want. All
right, Senator McCaskill, I'll leave it there. I'm curious, did you visit more places in Missouri or Missouri?
You know, I say both because I'm from both places, but definitely more places in rural areas where President Trump won by very large margins. And I've spent time out there trying to listen and make sure I understand their frustration.
A lot more Missouri then, I think, than Missouri. All right.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.